Hey, welcome. So you're looking at moving to Google Cloud. That's awesome. It's a huge step, but hold on. Before you take that leap, we've got to talk about the one thing, the single most critical phase that literally separates success from failure. And that's all about building your migration blueprint. So let's get right into it.
Let me start by asking you a question. It's one that probably keeps a lot of architects and engineers up at night. You've done all the planning. You've got the buy-in from leadership. So why do so many of these huge, ambitious cloud migration projects just completely go off the rails? What's the number one reason?
It's this, plain and simple. Migrating blind. That's it. It's like trying to find your way through a maze with the lights off. You just start rushing in, spinning up services, moving workloads, but you have no real picture of what you've got, how it all plugs together, or what it actually needs to run properly. And trust me, that is a recipe for disaster.
And that brings us to the first, and honestly, the most important rule. You have got to map out your environment before you touch anything else. Seriously, this isn't just a friendly suggestion, it's the absolute, non-negotiable foundation for getting this right.
I absolutely love this analogy because it just hits the nail on the head, right? I mean, what's plumbing in the living room in our world? Well, it's that forgotten authentication service that, whoops, just brought your entire customer portal down. It's those insane, unexpected data egress fees that completely wreck your budget. It's that mission-critical app that's suddenly crawling because you moved it too far away from its database. A good blueprint stops all of that from happening. And just look at the difference here. It's really night and day. When you migrate without a blueprint, your budget? It's basically a wild guess. Your timeline? That's more of a hope than a plan. And performance? You're just rolling the dice and praying. But when you have that blueprint, everything changes. Your budget becomes predictable. Your timeline is something you can actually hit. And you get to engineer for great performance right from the start, not just stumble into it by luck.
Okay, so we've hammered home the why this mapping phase is so incredibly important. Now, let's switch gears and talk about the what. What exactly do you need to be looking for? What are the pieces of this puzzle you need to map out to build that blueprint?
All right, first up, and this might seem obvious, but it's your applications. This is ground zero. You need a full inventory of everything. I'm talking about the big old legacy monoliths, all the way down to the tiniest little microservices. You need a complete list of every single piece of software that provides any kind of business value. This is where it all begins. Next up is dependencies. And let me tell you, this is where so many migrations just fall apart. Think of it as this invisible web, or maybe a giant plate of spaghetti, connecting all of your systems. Which web server is talking to which database? Which API needs that specific messaging queue to work? Untangling all of that is absolutely critical. A little pro tip for you, start with your most important customer-facing app and work backwards from there. Trace every single connection, because if you miss even one of those threads, I promise you, something is going to break.
Then you've got to follow the data. You need to trace your data flows. Ask yourself, where is our sensitive customer data actually stored? How does it travel between different parts of our application? Does it ever go outside our network? Figuring this out isn't just a tech problem, it's absolutely fundamental for security and for compliance when you move to GCP. If you get this wrong, you're looking at major risks like data breaches or just terrible performance bottlenecks.
And the final piece of the puzzle here is business criticality. Let's be real, not all apps are created equal, right? You have to rank them. Is this thing a mission-critical system that makes the company money? Or is it just some internal tool for the dev team? This ranking is what drives your whole migration strategy. It lets you plan it out in waves. You can start with the low-risk stuff, get a few wins on your belt, build up some confidence, and then you can go after the big, scary, complex systems.
Okay, that's a lot, I know. But now we know what we need to map. So the next big question is, how? How do we actually do all this discovery work? Let's get into the tools of the trade.
So there's kind of a maturity model for this. If your setup is super small, yeah, you could probably get by with spreadsheets, but that's going to get out of control really fast. The next step up is, writing your own scripts to go out and grab all that info automatically. That's better, for sure. But those scripts can be really brittle and hard to maintain. The real gold standard, especially if you're in a big, complex enterprise, is using automated discovery tools that plug right into what's called a CMDB, a configuration management database. Just think of a CMDB as your single source of truth. It's not just a list, it's a dynamic living map of your entire IT world that tracks everything and all its connections in real time. It's really the difference between looking at an old photograph versus watching a live video feed of your systems.
All right, we've covered the why, the what, and the how. Now let's put it all together. Let's get to the most practical, actionable part of this whole thing, your pre-flight migration checklist.
This right here, this is basically your cheat sheet. This is the data you need to have before you even think about designing a GCP architecture. You need that full app inventory we talked about. You need your infrastructure completely mapped out, all the CPU, RAM, and storage details. You obviously need that dependency analysis. And this next one is so important. You need performance baselines. I mean, if you don't know what good performance looks like today, how will you ever prove that the migration actually made things better? And, of course, you need all your security and compliance requirements documented.
And here's the real magic of it. Once you've filled out this checklist, the guessing games are over. You're not just hoping anymore. This data becomes the raw material for every smart decision you're about to make in GCP. It's what tells you exactly what size VM to choose, whether a managed database makes sense, or what your firewall rules need to look like. It's all right there.
When you follow this process, you completely change the game. The migration stops being this risky leap of faith, and it becomes what it should be, a well-engineered project. You've put in the hard work up front, you've done the discovery, and now your blueprint is finally ready. So the only question left to ask is, what are you going to build?